Morning. Went right back to work yesterday. I just had a couple guys banged up a little bit, but really good practice yesterday. Guys were sharp, understanding the importance of getting refocused and getting dialed in and locked in to Washington State and the kind of team that they are. Obviously, they're a really good football team. So, plan has been going well so far. From an injury update standpoint, waiting on a word on a couple guys, but we seem to be doing okay in terms of Dallas, in terms of Panay. Braxton Burmeister is back. We expect him to be back fully. Austin Faliu, obviously, he was good. He played in the game. Darren Felix, we're still waiting on his foot. You know, he still has an issue with his foot. We don't expect it to be a real serious one, but it might take another week or two. If I'm missing somebody, please let me know. But that being said, open questions.
Kind of maybe injuries. What about Tony Brooks James and his status at running back? Because it seems like you've given the bulk of the 2 carries the last 2 games to Verdell and Dye.
Well, Verdell played really well, and so we felt he deserved it, and he got it. Watching TBJ, especially on that second kickoff return, was explosive, ran hard, ran physical. So we are going to get him more involved and make sure he touches the ball more.
So he's healthy.
He is healthy. He is healthy. He was healthy this past week.
In the back, center, Katie.
Mario, as someone that, you've been to the pinnacle of college football, being a part of a national championship team, but where did Saturday's win rank in your personal achievements for you?
Oh, as high as any of those. I like to relive it for a second, but I won't and I can't. But certainly the moment itself, I mean, it doesn't get any better. It hasn't been. I mean, that's as good or better than any moment I've been fortunate enough and privileged enough to be a part of, and obviously extremely fired up for our fans, and because the way that they came out, the way they made that stadium rock, and the way they affected the game and our energy, I'm glad. It looks like they enjoyed it, so hopefully they did, and I'm glad they did.
Hey, Coach, I looked at the stats. There are 44 running plays with running backs. None of them were for negative yardage. What do you attribute that to, and kind of what a success is that against a defense like that?
Yeah, it's a big accomplishment. It's the direction we've been really aiming for and working towards since January, being able to control the line of scrimmage. They're an excellent front, and they're an excellent defense. A lot of talent, a lot of big, stout guys. I think, after a game like that, your body feels it. You could tell. But that being said, we, against a team like that, a lot of times being in 2nd and 8 is not a bad thing, because 2nd and 8s will turn into 2nd and 2s or 2nd and 1s or 12, 14-yard gains, and certainly happens. So it's certainly a lot of progress towards what we want, and we feel that we could continue progressing and get better in that department.
In games like that, we always gravitate to like a guy like CJ or Dylan or Justin, who had big games. But after review, what stood out to you? Maybe that doesn't show up in the box score when you reviewed that game.
You guys competing, just refusing to get caught up in the scoreboard of the moment. We told our guys the scoreboard lies now. You could go out there and physically dominate for a long, long time and knock some people around and look up and a fumble or an interception or just an unlucky play. It might say the other team's winning when on the field you're kind of doing the things for the most part you're supposed to do. So don't pay attention to it. I thought that was the most important thing we did, is the entire time just kept playing ball, no matter what. Aside from that, the physicality of the front lines continues to improve and progress. I think the investment is paying off. And that being said, we're not to where we need to be yet, but it's certainly, we're making a lot of progress in that department, and it must continue. And the other part is, we have to keep developing depth. Carlberg has shown, the guy's essentially, he's a co-starter because of his work and his development. Now guys like Sione, guys like Popo, guys like Gary Baker, all those guys, guys like Jacob Capra, who popped in there. Brady's played football before, so he's a guy that we consider another co-starter guy. But guys like him, guys like Stephen Jones, may get an opportunities to play now down the road. So all in all, at the line of scrimmage.
On the left, Rob.
Other than the interception for Diamador and then the one long pass play for UW, the corners kind of weren't in the spotlight a lot. How do you think they covered, and particularly going forward, with the challenge they're going to face this weekend in light of that?
Sure, they did a really good job. Keith Hayward is, along with Dante, of course, but Keith has really brought some new wrinkles to our defense in terms of coverage to be able to not only and sometimes to protect your corners so they're not an island all day, but also to be able to give different pictures and different looks to the opponent quarterback, and being able to tie those into what we do up front. It's been a tremendous factor for us in terms of improving in that department. And you're going to have to, because this crew that we're playing against, the quarterback's an excellent player. The offensive line is a veteran group that protects him well. They have every kind of receiver you want on your roster. They have. And they have the big guy that could, long stride and run by you. They have the slot guy that could wiggle right by you and create problems in space. They use their running back extremely well out of the backfield and in empty formations to create mismatches, wheel routes and whatnot, pick routes with on some of your linebackers and safety. So you have to be very disciplined in terms of what you're seeing, your assignment, and also from a technical standpoint. You have to be able to disrupt these guys, and you have to be able to affect the quarterback because he gets rid of the ball quickly, and if he does have time, he's even that much more dangerous.
Mario, I just wanted to clear up the ambiguity there. You said with Panay and Dallas that they were those guys you were waiting word on, or were you confident that they were minor injuries, or just wanted clarity on that?
We believe Dallas, I believe, is full go. Panay, which we're going to wait and see how he is.
And then with the Washington State's pass defense, they lead the league in pass defense overall, and they're third in conference play. This is a little bit of a different Washington State team than years past. And last year they also made improvement. What have you seen from that pass defense in particular when you're obviously a pretty potent passing offense?
Sure. It starts with what they do on first down. Their success rate on first down, doing a couple things. They stem the front a lot, which always causes problems for an offensive line. The picture starts looking one way, it changes in a second. So either it causes issues with line calls and communication, or you get offenses jumping off sides, which all of a sudden you're in 1st and 15. Well, we do all our analytical work and our statistical work. When teams are on 1st and 15, their success rate for getting the punt team on the field in 3 plays is about 98%. So first down is critical in this game. You got to make sure that you're disciplined. You don't allow all this eye candy to get you to jump and be jittery. So that's important. Number 2 is their defense is very challenging because they move like crazy. They are a stunt, stem operation, meaning that they might start in a 4-man front, stem to bear, stem to odd. Very exotic in their third down packages. They use big guys outside and smaller guys inside and switch those guys around. Their full line slants and angles are very difficult to block. They get underneath the zone schemes, underneath some of the gap scheme stuff. And they play their fifth safeties are really strong and heavy run support guys. They're going to be in there, and sometimes it's going to look like cover 0, but they're playing their quarters coverage stuff. So they're going to get hats to the football. They're going to disrupt the line of scrimmage. They've got to be one of the tops in the country in creating negative plays because of what they do. So you have to be very disciplined in the way that you ID them, in the way that you block them, and the technique you use, because when guys are slanting and angling like that, what happens first? Your feet don't catch up. So what happens after that? Typically your hands are in bad position and you start tugging and getting your holding call. So that's one of the many challenges of this defense. They're playing at a really high level. Last year they gave us tremendous problems. They came here to Autzen and we jumped off sides a good chunk of times, put ourselves in tough down and distance situations. And they flat out, they played a better game than we did. So we certainly, we have our work cut out for us and something that we're looking forward to.
Mario, your guys kind of embraced that take the pack mantra before the season. Halfway through now, tied for first place in the division. Is that something you address with your team, either in terms of what it takes to get there, or maybe not focusing on it too much at this point?
Yeah, I think that's something in the offseason you talk about so that they understand it. But once you get into the season, you are going week to week. You always address it because it's out there and they're going to hear it, right? They're always going to hear that this thing's a tight race and going to be a tight race, and how wide open the Pac-12 is, not to mention the North Division. But immediately bring it right back down to earth and to the focus that we use every single week is understanding that we need to win tomorrow's practice. The Tuesday, Wednesday practice for us is the ultimate difference maker for us in our process and our program. And it really is that simple. I know it sounds boring and certainly not interesting at all, but for us, because of where we are and how we're developing, it's completely tied into how we play on Saturday. I mean, tomorrow's practice and Wednesday, we play a game, maybe a game and a half on Tuesday and Wednesday, but it's it's part of what they now trust and believe in, and we're going with it full throttle.
Middle, Jerry.
Yeah, Coach, a question about defensive back play and your philosophy. I noticed in the Washington State USC game that I think 3 times Washington State defensive backs got hit in the back of the helmet by passes. They didn't turn to look for the ball. They get pass interference calls. And, it seems like that happens a lot, that DBs don't turn and look for the ball when they could get an interception. In that vein, your philosophy in that regard, considering the long kind of pass that Browning threw and Thomas Graham seemed to have position on the receiver and then for some reason went behind him. I don't know if I'm interpreting that right, but would you say he should have cut in front of him and maybe got the interception? Or because behind him,
Thomas's play, the actual play itself, yeah. That's a long and lonely track and a very unforgiving world when you're out there playing the field, and that thing comes all the way across the field. So it's a lot of grass to defend by yourself, and we understand when they get you in that coverage, that's what comes with it. And the way that throw came out, the angle of the route changed a little bit too. How to defend it? Yeah, you got to undercut it, all right, to get yourself between the receiver and the football itself, cut the flight path of the ball, and go up and make a play. Easier said than done. Easier said than done, but plenty of stuff to coach off the tape. He's a diligent student of the game, so and every single week he gets better and better, and he's a really good football player. So, stuff that we work on and we'll continue working on.
Eric on the left.
Looking through the numbers there, Gardner Minshew, I think 313 pass attempts, just 4 interceptions. How good has he been this year? And then also just how difficult is it to prepare for a team that throws it about 3/4 of the time?
He's been excellent now. I think his completion percentage is at 68, 69%, something of that nature. The left tackle is a big time player on a very good offensive line. So they protect him really well. The ball is gone now. So the problem is if you allow that to lull your defensive line to sleep. All right, when he does drop back and does his quick 5 stuff or his shot stuff, what they call, he's going to have a lot of time to throw the ball. So you've got to stay relentless to him. When the ball's gone, you got to go relentless to the ball. But he is very decisive, and he gets it out quick. And I'm talking about just not the decision, but his actual mechanics. The ball is gone. It's gone. He's a 6'3" guy, so he's a good sized guy that can see over those big offensive linemen. But he knows where he's going with the football. Changing the picture on him is important, because if he knows exactly what you're in, he can dial it up. Now that being said, you watch them over the years and they'll attack defenses as to what they see is there. So yeah, they like to throw the ball. It's obvious they've got the top passing offense in the conference, one of the best in the country, if not the best. But they will run the ball, and their running backs are really talented guys. Those big splits are challenging. Naturally, they create a lot of air right there, a lot of grass. So if you get a hat on a hat and give those guys some room, they could do some damage. And I mentioned it before, their running backs, they do a great job in the passing game. That's a big challenge. When those guys start motioning out of the backfield, start lining them up as the one spot or the 2, the slot receiver. Now they start working on, some guys that aren't used to being out there in space and covering them. So there's a lot of stuff they do that presents some challenges. So our guys, we have to burn our eyes on film. Nonstop. Our guys have to really just burn our eyes watching film and watching formations, watching everything that relates to, how they've and what they've done to have success.
Right back, Alex.
Coach, your offense is leading the Pac-12 in third down conversion rate at this point in the season, and had a number of fourth down conversions last week as well. What's gone into that success on the most critical downs this season?
Sure, a couple things is extensive offseason studies. We're a very different offense than we were last year. It's just a very different, schematically, philosophically, very different. Credit to the offensive coaches and the offensive players. The investment in third down game planning and red zone game planning has really gone through the roof. It helped us this last Saturday. We were 4 for 4 in terms of touchdowns in the red zone, and our numbers on third down keep going up and it's not. Everyone thinks, well, you're just creating a matchup for Dillon Mitchell. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. Now he does get open, and if you're a quarterback, you're going to throw it to the open guy. But we try to stress certain parts of the defense. We try to, when we recognize a tendency, and it's no different than anybody else. We just really try to stress those tendencies by what we do, and a lot of times it complements our base scheme as it is. Sometimes it doesn't. But Marcus has done an extraordinary amount of work and study on third down football. this offseason, and all that carryover is really starting to pay off. And Justin eats it up. He's a student of the game. The rest of our offensive guys, they love that kind of stuff. They live for it. And when you have bright guys with high football IQs, that playbook could keep expanding, and that's what's happening.
Coach, would you say that it's helpful having Mastro on staff coming up against WSU, having a little bit of insight to what Leach does and how he runs things?
A little bit, but schemes change and whatnot, and terminology changes and all that stuff. It's helpful. It's great having him here because what he's brought to the table for us, more than having been at a place that we're going to play against, quite honestly. But, anytime you have someone on your staff that has been at one of your opponent's staffs, you always, see if there's anything that could be helpful in it. But overall, I mean, the big benefit from him is just what he brings to the table and what he's done for our run game and our protections, and he's done a heck of a job now. He's an excellent football coach.
All right, Austin.
Mario, there's been some controversy in the Pac-12 about targeting and how that's been enforced. You had one Saturday that was kind of a borderline one. What did you see when you look back at that play with Carl Bergen? Is there like a teaching point you pull out of that in terms of teaching guys what to do when they're in position to hit the quarterback?
It is. I think everybody's in a tough spot because those things happen so fast. And I think that the entire country is teaching the right stuff. I don't think any coach is teaching a player to target. What happens is, your eyes lead your body, and you're looking at guys that are moving as fast as they can against guys that are moving as fast as they can, taking particular angles as it relates to their assignment. And sometimes it's just on you. And but the rule is what it is. I'm certainly not going to contest it or complain about it, but it's difficult. It really is difficult, and it's tough when a player is trying to do the right things, and he ends up being ejected in a critical game. At a position where the depth certainly is an issue. So tough call, and I think we see examples on a weekly basis how difficult it is to officiate that stuff. So credit to the officials. They're trying. They're trying. I think it's always going to be controversial because of the ramifications of actually getting a targeting penalty. It's pretty severe, and it's game changing. It's a difference maker.
Time for two more, Matt, and then James.
And I can't speak too much into specifics about it, but can you maybe explain the strategy of having a big recruiting weekend like you did for this game of this magnitude, and just kind of your feelings of how it maybe has gone?
Mm-hmm. Well, the part that's difficult about that is that you really can't spend much time around them. But we make every family that takes an official visit during the season, we make them well aware of the fact that we're not going to be able to. We're preparing our team, and I kind of joke with them and tell them, it's like, well, if your son was here and I'm supposed to be getting him ready for the game, but I'm hanging out with somebody else's parents who are thinking about coming here, what am I doing for the program? But I think, and I also told them, I think it's important for them to watch us work, to watch us around our players, to watch us work our craft and our processes. So philosophically, I think it's good. I think it's good especially for those that have been here a few times already and that haven't seen the game day experience. I think that's great. I also think a moment like that that's hard to duplicate now. I know those things are impactful. Is it ever does it make it the tipping point for a decision? I don't know. I think a lot of times prospects have their decisions kind of made before they announce them. But certainly things like that, they don't hurt it. Now, the way Autzen, is alive and rocking the way it does, that is the ultimate difference maker. It really is. When people see the passion, the pageantry that surrounds Oregon football and get to experience it live, and especially on a day like that, that part of it, without question, is extremely impactful. So I'm glad they were there.
All right, last question, James, here in the middle.
We didn't have a chance last week at the timing of the announcement, but there was discussion at the Pac-12 about replay procedures and this controversy that's been going on in the office. Mm-hmm. I think you could appreciate that where we were both at previously, Steve Shaw would be facing far greater scrutiny than what's going on right now. What is your reaction to Woody Dixon's previous involvement and the current replay procedures in this conference?
You just reminded me of a kick six there. I had to get refocused there for a second. It certainly was not a good experience. In terms of the officiating stuff, I don't have a comment. I don't. I know that there's some challenges that come with it, and certainly I think controversy is always going to follow it in one way or shape or form or another. But I think we trust the conference working hard to get everything right. So I wish I could give you a better answer, something that, carries a little bit more teeth and substance, but it really kind of is where I'm so dialed into what we're doing and everything else that goes with it that I don't have any more. But I'll take another question.
Take another one, then get back to the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
You touched on a little bit about their passing.
Yeah,
touch on a little bit with their passing. Mm-hmm. On a per pass attempt basis, the fact that they've only taken, I believe, 5 sacks on the season is kind of incredible. The fact that obviously, yes, he gets the ball out very quickly. Mm-hmm. As a team that prides itself on sacking the quarterback as much as you do, how do you try to do that against a team who not only gets the ball out very well, but clearly protects enough, despite the fact that they pass more than anybody?
Yeah, it's the challenge is that you have to continue to play at your highest level with a high motor, because you know how it is. I mean, chase quarterback, you're about to get there, you get all excited, and bam, the ball's gone, and you got to redirect and go chase down the ball carrier. Now, if you don't successfully get to the quarterback every now and then, and the sticks are moving, that's where the challenge becomes an issue. It's more than a challenge because your guys start getting worn out. We don't allow it to happen, but I could see where they have discouraged teams from really rushing the passer. I've seen teams just kind of wait at the line of scrimmage and hope to bat down a ball instead because of that. So I think, and the way they do it, the way they formation you, I mean, they understand. And obviously Coach Leach has done an incredible job, and everywhere he's been, he really understands how to attack defenses. Like, he knows where the holes are, and the way that offense is designed, that offense is designed to expose those holes. So the picture and changing the picture is critical, but the offensive line, they're a good offensive line. We have a good defensive line. We have to be at our best, and we expect our guys to be at our best to help us, affect the quarterback.